All right, so today we have inside the studio, we got, the gun show, Tim Kennedy. And Tim is, everyone knows Tim Kennedy. And you even have a book, Tim, this awesome book called Scars and Stripes. And so I'm going to ask you about this book. What made you decide to sit down and write a book? I got some people that want you to sign their book also. We'll talk about that. And then also we're going to talk about Joe Biden and the current administration. They have some new rules that they're rolling out. I don't know if you know about those, but I'll tell you what those are and see what your thoughts are. It just came out Thursday last week, so we'll talk about that as well. So let's welcome Tim Kennedy, everyone. Tim, how you doing, sir?
I'm amazing. My voice is a little stressed from shooting all weekend, but I'm amazing.
Nice, outstanding. So you're part of Sheepdog.
I am. Yep.
You are Sheepdog.
No. Sheepdog it was actually an expression or analogy or a metaphor. That would be an analogy of these people that are just natural protectors, and I wish that Americans, I think all Americans used to be sheepdogs, and fewer and fewer people take that onus of responsibility on themselves. And since maybe 2017, people started realizing that truthfully, nobody's ever going to come and save them. You are your first security. You are your first response. That you pick up and you dial 911 these days. You might wait 10 minutes before you talk to somebody. I experienced personally as somebody was trying to break into my house, and I'm sitting on hold with 911 as a guy with a weapon, a flashlight, and duct tape is going from door to door and window to window in my own home, as ultimately nobody ever came to help me.
Right.
And I had to confront this person on my front lawn before he got to my, at the time, 3-year-old son's window. So, this idea of sheepdog is whether you're at church or you're at the synagogue or you're at the mosque, the people to your left and to your right, they are your responsibility. The people behind you in your home, they are your responsibility. The people in this shop, they are our responsibility. And I think for far too long, we have been entitled because we have lived in very peaceful, protected times. But now it's time for Americans to be sheepdogs again.
All right, you're still active military?
I am.
All right, so you're still Special Forces? Man, tell us about that.
Greatest job in the world. I tried to enlist on September 11th, 2001. And, I was at the recruiter's office with hundreds of, if not thousands of people in line ahead of me. And it has been the most rewarding career ever. I love being able to serve my country, just like I serve my family and just like I serve my community and just like I serve my church. There's something really fulfilling about being service-minded. And, it's obviously opened a ton of opportunity in my life because I was able to receive some of the best training in the world from the best humans on the planet. I walked down the hallways of giants, just the most courageous, humble war fighters. And I've just been so blessed to have men like that in my life.
And how's that juggling, the military and family and a business?
Oh, it's lame. Yeah. I mean, it's we've been trying to do this for a minute, and it's real untenable. It's difficult.
Right.
But I have my priorities and I really try to stick to them. And so time management is a big component of my life.
Now, I got this court case, the Cargill V Garland case. It's a case that we're, suing the ATF, Department of Justice, and originally it's about bump stocks, but I tell people it's really not about bump stocks. It's about the definition of what a machine gun is, and also telling the ATF they can't create a right law. And so we actually won this case, the Cargill Garland case, in the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans. Well, we basically, they decided that, hey, you're right. ATF can't create a right law. That's for Congress. Congress writes a bill, president signs it, it becomes law. If they want to ban something, then that's how they go about doing it.
Yeah. There's a third step. After Congress writes a law, the president signs it. Then there's a check and balance. This is why we have 3 branches of government, which is the Supreme Court making sure it's constitutional.
Correct.
So I am a true believer in how beautiful the founding fathers formed this government, and there's natural inherent checks and balances in the way in which it was originally organized. There's some shenanigans that have been happening of late where, whether it's a mandate or it's an organization under a department that thinks that they can pass law, they cannot. It is to the origin and intent and letter of the law and the foundation of this nation, unconstitutional. So, and it's been very dangerous for a very long time, whether it was COVID with the mandates, we didn't require anybody. I couldn't fly. I couldn't get on a plane. Here's a litany of things I wasn't allowed to do. And similar to that on the gun law side, no, you can't be like, this trigger is illegal, or this stock is illegal, or that barrel length is 14.5 inches. So you actually have an SBR, and you having that, you're committing a crime. If it was an inch and a half longer, or if you put on, if you pinned a muzzle brake that was an inch and a half longer on there, then you'd be okay. Or you can pay this $200 tax. Get out of here.
Right. Yeah, it's insane. And also the Biden administration is coming out with this new, they come up with a new rule by way of the ATF in restricting who can sell guns and all that stuff. But I'll talk about that a little later. I want to go back to talking about
abolish them. I said it.
Abolish the ATF.
That's right. IRS and Department of Education. That's a different story.
Don't need them, huh?
Don't need them.
All right. So we have this lawsuit, the Cargill V Garland lawsuit that we
should have sent that to me. I would read the whole entire thing.
Yeah. We pushed it all the way to the Fifth Circuit. We won the Fifth Circuit. Now it's before the U.S. Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is going to decide if they're going to hear this case in conference in September, October timeframe, maybe November. If they're
September right now.
Yeah. So September 26th, they're supposed to decide, or they're going to push it back to October, or they may decide in November. We'll see. So it should be real soon, and we'll find out if they're going to hear this case. If they do hear this case, it will have wide ramifications, because that case says the ATF can't create a right law. So we're talking about triggers, so like the rare breed triggers, right, Zach?
Yeah, rare breed forced reset trigger.
Right. Dude, I had a dude call me and be like, "Hey, I saw you order one of these." I was like, "Who's this?" I'm like, "This is Department of Justice," but they said something specific.
What?
And I was like, "Nah, bro, I don't want to talk about this."
They called you.
They called me. I've seen a bunch of videos where they show up on people's doors, knocking on doors, being like, "Hey, are you in possession of these triggers? You got a warrant, bro? No? Leave." You created a law within your department that thinks that you can come to my house. This goes against everything. This is literally why we fought in 1775 and killed everybody to finally have independence in 1776, was because of actions just like this.
Now we can't have 14.5-inch barrels, and we pay 50% in income tax.
Yeah. Here we are.
Ooh. Yeah. Come a long way since then.
I think I pay way more than 50%.
And then so, Zach, tell us more about the triggers.
So forced reset trigger is basically a trigger that uses the recoil force to push the trigger back into reset. It's maybe kind of similar to the bump stock, but it just pushes the trigger forward in your finger as the bolt comes forward, right? So if you apply pressure to the trigger, it moves forward and back in your finger. It's not just one function of the trigger, a single function of the trigger as is defined, as they define a machine gun, but you are actually pulling the trigger, but it's just getting pushed forward under force of the bolt.
Okay.
But yeah, the ATF came after Rare Breed and Lawrence DeMonico and basically gave him a cease and desist, and he did not cease or desist. And they took
a few
him
other
to
companies
court.
knocked off the trigger too. It wasn't just Rare.
Yeah, Wide Open Trigger did as well.
There's another one, Big Daddy, right? Big Daddy.
Rare Breed is the best functioning
for
one
sure
by far.
But they're not going after all those guys, right?
Rare Breed is the biggest one.
They're just going after Rare Breed right now.
I think they have the largest quantity. Okay. So I'm
talking the ATF though. They're just going after Rare Breed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, they actually took him to court in New York over some kind of finance charges for selling them, like some kind of tax avoidance or evasion that they're saying that he did. They're not even going after him criminally. They're going after them civilly.
So shady. I realized that, like, we got a lot of laws, and I'm glad that we caught Capone. We didn't get Capone for breaking a bunch of laws or having people murdered, which he did, or running booze. We got him for tax evasion. But tax evasion was a necessary component of the mob doing business. So it was very interconnected. But when you're like trying to be shady and using unrelated laws that are not in line with the business that people are doing so that you can get them, I think it's really disingenuous.
Yeah, they're using these laws to infringe on the Second Amendment.
That's right.
Kind of like also they are, banks are stopping giving funding to gun-related companies as well. And they're like, basically that's de facto gun control. When you cut
not just
off
banks,
funding for these
even
companies.
processing companies, like the PayPals and Stripe. I have a private school an online young men's mentorship program that is very freedom driven, like very liberty, not libertarian, because that has like negative connotations to it. Like, this is take sovereignty over your family, and we empower fathers, mothers, and children to like live their life as American founding fathers would want them to, which is freely. And we had our bank processing company, Stripe, freeze our funds because they thought that we were doing a militia. And I was like, we have a reading list that is across the spectrum from historical books to, The Art of War with Sue to people are journaling their exercises and they're doing daily workouts, which you've experienced,
yours.
Yeah. But really beautiful things that you would want contributing members of society, productive members of society to be doing. And Stripe froze our account. So, yeah.
Ooh, the founding fathers today would be labeled as domestic terrorists
for sure.
And extremists.
Yeah. All right. So now with the triggers, though, with the Red trigger, I want to go back to that again. I'm pulling you back in. Mm-hmm. They used the Cargill case to actually get the injunction for that.
Yeah, they got it with NAGR.
Right. So now, luckily, we have a full stop. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you about this case, because this case is far, reach for everything, whether it's the brace, whether it's the trigger, whether it's the bump stock, whether it's whatever the ATF decides they want to ban. We're saying, hey, boom, you can't do that. And everyone's using the Cargill case, and it's the closest case to the U.S. Supreme Court. And so that's why it's really important. And we're trying to drum up some support and let people know this is a really good and really important case that we're waiting the Supreme Court to hear. And
yeah, there's two. One, I have not done my due diligence to read the whole entire case. I will. But there are some really important elements to this, not just the interpretation of the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. Anything constitutional law resides at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
If there are going to be new laws created, it happens in Congress.
Right.
And a department which is led by an appointed person by the executive branch cannot create laws. It is specific that is not supposed to happen. So in other words, to prevent a dictatorship where the king, or in this case, the president, can be like, okay, I'm going to appoint this person as the head over the Department of Justice. That department is then able to create laws in line because that person is appointed by the executive, because the president says, this is my man. This is the man that then can go create new laws. Those laws are going to be in line with what the executive branch wants.
Right.
That goes against the ideas of a constitutional republic, which is what we are.
Right.
And it very much starts moving towards the very slippery slope of a tyrannical government. Mm. And Thomas Jefferson said it very well, that from time to time we have to feed and nurture the tree of freedom with the blood of patriots.
All right, so now, the administration now has come up with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was passed last year.
The what?
The Bipartisan Safer
I
Communities
hate it when
Act.
they name things like that.
Yeah.
That's always the opposite of whatever they name it. You ever notice that? Whatever they name it, you can basically
the Inflation
just
Reduction
take the
Act. I think we're
opposite.
currently experiencing the Inflation Reduction Act, where we have like this most severe inflation in my lifetime. Right? Is that what we're going through right now?
Yeah.
So what's the name of this bill again?
It's the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act.
Bipartisan Safety.
Bipartisan.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So they passed that last year, and what that did was that put a restriction on anyone who's 18, 19, 20-year-olds to purchase firearms from a gun store. So mainly rifles, because you can't buy handguns from a gun store until you turn 21. So the 18 to 20-year-olds get an automatic delay now in their transactions when they walk into the gun store. So we're having... we're experiencing that here. We're having people that are 18, 19, 20 years old. They're buying their first shotgun, their first rifle, whatever. And they're walking in, filling out the 4473, doing the background check, and they're automatically delaying them. And it's 10 days, 10-day wait. So that was last year. Now this year.
That's lame.
Yeah. So this year, what we're doing is they're saying, hey, okay, now we're going to expand on that, because in this bill, they also gave the ATF the authority to come up with a rule to, I guess, get closer to universal background checks as they possibly can. And so Congress signed off on this. Now, what they're doing this year is the administration is asking for the ATF to go after anyone who's selling guns. If you're selling, then I guess they're going to put a magic number on it, whether it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 guns, whatever. You're selling the firearm. They're going to say, hey, you want to sell a gun? You need to be a dealer in order to sell this firearm. You can only sell so many guns a year or something to that effect, or you need to go through a dealer to sell the firearm.
Sick.
He's pulling out your Constitution.
I am.
I love it.
So this is guns per week, per month, per year.
They're going to right now. It's in the preliminary phases or whatever you want to call it, but they're going to come up with a number. There's going to be a number there. And they're going to say, okay, you can only sell X amount of guns per year or whatever it is. And then if you go over that, you need to be a dealer. But if you're a dealer, you have to follow these rules here and all that kind of stuff. You cannot make a profit off of the guns you're selling. That's the big thing. Anyone's making a profit, you're considered a dealer, you're committing a crime.
What?
Yes.
So if I this is...
This was released
As we
this
continue
past
talking
week.
about this, let's just... A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So there are some things here that we fortunately have had the U.S. Constitution have that language be broken down by the Supreme Court, and that is their job, right? The Supreme Court discerns what the Founding Fathers' intent were for both any of the articles and the amendments. With that, a well-regulated... Clearly, they're well-regulated militia. That there are some implications as to what that should be. Like, should I be a law-abiding citizen under well-regulated? Right. For that 4473, is it too much as it is with how much they get into our lives for us to be in line with well-regulated? The interpretation of well-regulated does. No way would anybody say that well-regulated would include anybody under the age of 21, right? Like 18 to 21-year-olds can't buy a rifle. Right. No way would anyone in their right mind be able to say a well-regulated would also include all of these different components that go with a firearm, to include stocks, triggers, length of barrels. Like none of that is covered in this really concise single, and they used vague, ambiguous terms with intentionality.
Right.
They wanted it to be broad and wide. So it was this swath of inclusion was Americans, a well-regulated militia. Our right to own these guns shall not be infringed.
Right.
And everything that you just said is clearly in direct conflict with what this says. So it's unconstitutional.
Right.
And if it's unconstitutional, it's not American. If it's not American, can't be law. And the executive branch cannot, by any department, create laws. It's illegal. And it's unconstitutional. And even worse, it's un-American.
There's evidence that in the 18th century, when they used the word regulated, it more meant equipped, not actually
regulated
like we think of today.
Right. Interesting.
We got some spicy times ahead of us.
Oh yeah,
spicy.
All right, so Tim, you have Scars and Stripes. Tell me about this Scars and Stripes.
Man,
Which you got to sign for me, by the way, too.
yeah, that is a book about everything I have done wrong in life.
A lot of good stories in here.
A lot of stories, a lot of real sad stories, a lot of embarrassing stories, a lot of stories that I look back with a degree of shame, where I think about how I talked to my first few bosses, the entitled prick that I was.
Because you were young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I was an entitled prick. I'm not going to, I know some incredible young men that don't have any of the characteristics that I had. I have a bunch that, we have a gun store up north in Cedar Park, Noble Defender. And I got a bunch of great young men that work there at Sheepdog Response. We have a ton of great young men that work there and women. So I'm not just going to blame that it was my youth. I wish I'd be like, oh yeah, I was just young. No, I was young and I was a prick. And with that came a lot of consequence. With that came a lot of failure and a lot of lessons learned. So the Scars and Stripes, obviously, I carry a lot of both. Stripes being a senior non-commissioned officer, still serving. And, those stripes are earned through rigor and discipline and time, as are scars. So, there's kind of a double entendre on the title. And, from me swimming out into the Pacific Ocean after I had a few girls pregnant and I thought I was dying of AIDS, being a young man without direction, not living by a code. The military fixed that. One of the many reasons why I love the military is it saved my life.
You obviously didn't get that talk, when you go to like Korea and places like that and say, hey, when you leave the country, you're in this country here. If you catch something in this country, we're not going to let you come back to the United States with it because there are things that they have over here that we don't have. So you can't come back to the U.S. You didn't get that talk.
I didn't know. Did not get that talk. This was pre-military safety briefs.
Oh, okay.
This was just a young man living his life with complete careless abandon.
Right.
So yeah, man, that book, I actually had one of my best friends, Nick Palmisciano, write that book with me because to tell a story where you're truly transparent, I don't think you can do it by yourself.
Right.
So I had one of my best friends that I've been friends with for, damn near 20 years now. He's cornered me in fights. He was one of the few people when I was overseas living and going through some really tough times after making mistakes where I could be real with. And he helped me put it all down in black and white on paper so that it was as best we can, as true and as vulnerable and as transparent, which is something that we're desperately needing now, which is truthful, vulnerable transparency of powerful men.
Some of these stories are like really gut punching, stories and really make you, check yourself.
Yeah.
Type stories.
When I read that audiobook, you get into nearly a sensory deprivation chamber, like in an audio studio. It's just you. It's a microphone. It's very dark, and you're padded with all these foam walls around you, and you're reliving. I was reliving the worst moments of my whole entire life as I was rereading this book. So I wrote it, and that was hard enough. But then I went page by page, word by word, thinking back to being 15 years old when my best friend died in a car crash, thinking back to that time when I looked at John, my team sergeant, and being like, do it, John, you're fucked up because you're not putting me on this helicopter with you because I'm the fastest, I'm the strongest, I'm the best. He's like, Tim, I asked you to prep our QRF. We might get in a gunfight tonight. And you are the one that's going to come and save us.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I was sitting there like, no, man, I want to be the first guy through the door, because I'm the war fighter, I'm the guy that knows everything. I was a buck sergeant, first team I've ever been on my first deployment, talking to a Delta Force master sergeant about what the best thing was. Yeah, your face does not even get close enough to think about the shame about who I was then. So that's all in there.
Yeah. You sit there. I listen to people, get customers that walk into the gun store and you hear, people say certain things and you try to tell them, certain things. And especially when you can tell their mindset. It's like, you're not there yet, but you just let them live their life and they experience it. And eventually I think one day it'll hit them it's like, oops, I should have gone this path here. I should have done it this way.
Yeah. I have an amazing father, and he did all those things for me. I was just too dumb and too stubborn to actually listen to, the input of an amazing man and an amazing mom. Kids, listen to your parents.
Yeah, they say that the biggest part of parenting is just saying the same thing over and over and over and over until your child finally understands it.
Yeah, I didn't. Back to dumb and stubborn. Yeah, right here.
Join the club.
So we got police officers around the country are being attacked, just unprovoked. What are your thoughts on some of that's going on?
Yeah, fuck those guys. My brother is a police officer. My dad is a police officer. My brother-in-law is a police officer. My first job was a police officer after, I guess my second job, because I was a firefighter, EMT first. And then as soon as I was old enough to go to the police academy, I went to the Allen Hancock Police Academy in Santa Maria, California. And everybody's like, wait, it's not Santa Maria. I know. This is a long time ago. It is one of the hardest occupations in the world when the country is around and supporting you. Right. And right now, the ignorance and propaganda of a radicalized, tiny little group of liars have painted law enforcement into an inaccurate corner. They are the most selfless servants. I promise, and I'm going to speak with bias because I question people that often are like, yeah, do you know what? Those pigs do this. They're like profiling this. And I was like, do you know any? Because like my dad was one for 30 some odd years. My brother has been one for 20 something years. My brother, like, this has been my world the whole time. And they have done everything at their own sacrifice, at their own detriment for the communities that they serve. Here in Austin, they have had their wings clipped. They've had their budget cut. They have had a city council that has undermined them. They have had a DA that is attacking and indicting them for them trying to do the job, which is protect the communities. When you have a homicide detective, which we currently are experiencing, you have a homicide detective or sergeant that is in uniform in a patrol car doing patrol with a huge logbook of murder cases that he's not allowed to investigate because they are so understaffed, so undermanned, and so underfunded. You got a problem.
That's a big problem.
And that is happening right now in the city, in Texas.
Right, in Austin.
Yeah. I'm not talking like Chicago, which I don't even know if can be saved. St. Louis, L.A. I'm talking Austin, Texas.
And they're talking about increasing that. Right now, they're talking about even making them do that like once a week. Instead of investigating murders and investigating crimes, they're going to be doing patrol work.
Yeah. Both are important. That's why we have to have the manning and budget for our law enforcement to be able to protect our communities. If you pick up, like, if your son gets murdered, the guy that is going to show up to do that investigation will get to work on it a little bit, and then he has to get into a uniform and hop into a patrol car and go and patrol a neighborhood because there's not enough police officers to do both right now. Yeah. Sorry about your son. Hopefully, hopefully we find out who did it.
Because the thing right now is if you've been robbed, whether it's aggravated robbery, whatever, don't call 911. Call 311.
Faster response time.
That's crazy. Your thoughts on how the Biden administration is handling the Second Amendment right now? What are your thoughts on that? Because right now, this is what I think. They're putting the tip in, and they're just saying, hey, we're just going to put the tip in. But eventually you just don't do the tip. You eventually do the whole cock.
We've with a prison rape, which is where they're going. They're frankly using it for toilet paper. I carry this with me every single place that I go. It sits on the desk in my office. It's on my desk at my house. Mm-hmm. It is sitting in the library in my school. I love it because this country is something new that had never existed before and has done something that has never happened in history, which is become the beacon of freedom for the world to look at. Mm. And when somebody takes this document, which is what made this country great, and wipes their butt with it, it just won't work. It is the most important thing for us to protect and for all of us to unite is the appreciation for how this country was founded and what this country stood for. Were we perfect? Absolutely not.
Right.
Were some of the founding fathers slave owners? Completely, as was everyone else of wealth or in a position of power at the time. Right. But not judging anything in 2023 lens, but looking at the things in the context and understanding why this is the most beautiful country. The most important thing is because we have always aspired.
It was the fad. It was the thing, it was the sign of the times.
Yeah, but like we've always wanted to live up to what this dream was. And we've never done it perfect, but we will storm beaches and we will climb cliffs to stop evil from happening. And we will continue to be the sovereign beacon for what freedom looks like.
I tell people, if you have any doubts about, how great this country really is, all you have to do is look, to our southern border, take a look, right now in Austin, it's 102, 3, 4, 5 degrees or whatever, go further south and people are walking miles across the border to get to the United States.
Hundreds of miles.
Yeah. Exactly. To get to the United States.
You think our border is bad? Go down to the Guatemala-Mexico border where they're doing the exact same thing, trying to stop the flood of people coming from South America to America.
Regardless of the temperature,
no,
regardless of how it is,
care.
Regardless of the rain, the mosquitoes, crossing, whatever, body of water, doesn't matter.
The hardest terrain on the, maybe definitely.
Most of it's the desert.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get here to the United States. That's just how great this country really is.
And it is the greatest country in the world or to have ever been.
Now, what made you decide to go into, I guess, re-enlist when Donald Trump ran for office?
Yeah, I never had a break-in service. I have been in from, active duty out of Fort Bragg for a long time, and then went to the National Guard for my career to kind of be split while I was fighting professionally for the UFC and for Strikeforce and IFL. And while I could serve my country, I was able to do both those things as a guardsman. I think it's very typical to be on a winning team. As I just had this conversation with my son about, he went to a tryout and he got selected to go on to this very talented but prestigious and selective team. And he's like, but my friends are over here and I want to go play with the old team. And I was like, man, I get that. And I really do. But you want to be on the best team. You don't want to be the big fish in a little pond. You want to be surrounded by the hungry sharks that are all going to fight with you. And having served under Bush and then served under Obama and then serving under Trump and now serving under Biden, there's clearly different trust in how the military is going to act. There's a lot of trust from President Trump, like him or hate him. He trusted the military and he wanted us to win. I like to be on winning teams. So when you have a president is like, what is the biggest bomb that we have in our entire arsenal? Do you know what? You guys can drop it on those dudes in the mountains that are shooting on you. There's something about that makes me feel good. I want that guy when I pick up the phone and the SecDef has to be like, yep, use the bomb. I want that guy.
Yeah.
I like to win. I don't want to go fight a war that can't be won to perpetuate the military industrial complex. Right. I want to go fight and win a war. That's the job of the military. Nothing else.
Nice. And Zach, you have some questions about Sheepdog, right?
Oh yeah, Sheepdog Response. That's what you do. Basically, that's like your thing now, right?
Yeah, it's one of many. The very much aligned with this document, which is impossible to be fulfilled unless we have the people who are strong and independent. We are the fattest we've ever been. I think we are the most illiterate that we've ever been. I think we are gelatinous blobs of entitled pricks walking around to listen to the next podcast that's going to talk about the existential existence and purpose for the cosmos being aligned. I don't fucking care about any of that. I care about if you are being a contributing member to the society, if you're being the citizen that Roosevelt asked us to be, if you are being the American that Reagan asked us to be, if you are going to be the people that the founding fathers fought for. When I say fought, hung, tortured, starved into oblivion, destitute. That's everything that they put on the line for these ideas, for us to have this country. That is what they put on the line. Now, like, I pick up my phone and expect to have food delivered to my front door in 10 minutes, and I'm uncomfortable if it doesn't happen that fast. So Sheepdog is really just, the mission is straightforward. It is to train and equip people to be able to preserve and protect human life and provide for their families.
That is so important now. I teach a gun safety class. It's more like a basic entry-level class for people who have never picked up a gun before, are totally unfamiliar or uncomfortable with them, that are just starting to get this feeling that, you know, maybe things aren't as great as they could be, and maybe they need to have these tools and equip themselves to be able to defend themselves and the people they care about. Because that analogy of the sheepdog, I think, is perfect, because what it says is that most of the people, they're sheep. They just go along to get along. They are not equipped or comfortable defending themselves. And if something happens, you cannot rely on them to be courageous or do what needs to be done. They're also the wolves. These are the people who are willing to do bad things and want to take advantage of the sheep. They, you know, are willing to steal from them, kill them, hurt them, just do whatever they can to elevate themselves while hurting other people. And they don't care about anybody else in the process of, you know, raising themselves up or just getting what they need. And then there are the sheepdogs. These are the people like you who are willing to put everything on the line and are ready to defend the sheep from the wolves. And you had this great quote. It was, you're not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to fall to your level of training. And Sheepdog Response is all about training you to get ready for these situations. And it's not always just the take your AR and run and shoot while you're running and, you know, sprawl down and shoot and get on your knees and shoot. It's not just that stuff that looks cool in the movies, but it's more that practical, actually applicable things to real life in these situations. Like you show people how to use tourniquets, right?
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, if you're bleeding out, you're worthless and you're probably going to die. So you have to stop things like that. You said before we started, you said that you just started a new program called Provider, or is it Protector Provider?
Protector is our 3-day, 2.5-day, and it's kind of like our flagship marquee course that it has the most demand. Learn how to shoot, learn how to fight, learn situational awareness, learn medical. You know, like there's 4 components that I think are the cornerstones, which are shoot, move, communicate, medicate. Those are the 4 things that I think everybody has to be able to be somebody that can protect. You have to be competent in those 4 things. That does not include one of the most important things, which is to be able to provide for your family. So the course that we launched this weekend, it was our inaugural course. It was called the Provider Course, and we are teaching, you know, what would happen in my life over 10 years, probably during hunting season, over a couple of weekends, over 10 years. My dad and my uncles, my grandpa would impart upon me, you know, like what it meant to be a good steward of the land, what it meant to assume the public trust of knowing which animal we're going to hunt, why we're hunting in hunting season, what it means to follow the law, the laws of being a good hunter. And there's some great laws that are put in place to protect, you know, conservation, wetland conservation, animal conservation. You know, there's no greater conservation group of people on the planet than hunters. They're the ones that truly love wildlife. And, you know, that was taught to me over, you know, 10 years, maybe from 17 to 17 or from 7 to 17. That's been missing for a little bit. You know, I think a whole generation, we were just too busy with our lives to teach our children, and shame on us for that.
Yeah, and hunters have been demonized. People say, oh, that's so, you know, terrible for the animal. But no, that's actually the best way that an animal can go out is from your bullet, well placed, to just kill it.
Sure.
When it's older, Usually a male animal like a buck, you're not going to shoot a doe, but you're going to shoot that buck and you're going to kill it. It's dead within 20, 30 seconds. And that's so much better than some other animal just coming and just eating it alive.
Why don't you just leave them be then? Why don't we just let them die of old age? Well, because they're going to starve to death. For genetic selection, and nature is metal, there has been a very cruel thing that has happened, and that is the strong species are able to survive, and the weak species normally would die off in a really terrible, horrible way. What we're able to do as hunters is we're able to assist that natural selection to make sure that the strong genetics, the healthy genetics, not the diseased or starved genetics, those are the ones that are being passed on, both in the male and female of every single species. And, if there's a plot of land, let's say to generate a bear tag, the Fish and Game average how much food is available in this parcel. The amount of food that's available in that parcel will determine how many animals are able to survive in that area without starving to death. If there's more than that, then all of them could starve and all of them could have disease and all of them could die. So if there's enough food to feed 20 bears, but there's 34 bears, that means 14 bear tags are going to be generated. That means that we're going to have 20 very healthy bears, and we're going to have 14 good, healthy bears that are going to be harvested ethically, and their meat and their skin and everything about them is going to be appreciated and valued, and we're going to be able to preserve that land with the money that's generated off of those things. And the wetland conversation and the public land conservation is going to happen because of the funds generated by the hunters hunting the 14 that were produced out of the lack of food in that zone. And anybody that doesn't understand that, clearly they don't. They're just ignorant and never have spent the time to understand what does the hunting industry really look like. It's just so easy to label something, and it's I think pathetically unintellectual just to judge somebody off of the things that you don't know.
Yeah, doing that is actually a service to the ecology, not a disservice.
For sure. Amen. Preach.
Nice.
Yeah, fitness is a big part of your thing too. Huh?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, both to hunt and both to be a protector. I get I have a hard time when somebody comes in and be like, I don't need to fight. I don't need to know how to use a radio or a sat phone or blah, 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 blah. I carry a gun. I was like, so do I. How are you going to, you tell me one way that you're going to win against me? You're going to out gunfight me? You think it leveled the playing field that much that you're going to be able to beat me? I will run circles around you every single which way and kill you every single which way and be able to call your family and tell you how sad I am for your passing. These are the reason that all the special missions units, the SEALs and Green Berets and Delta Force and Ranger Regiment and the PJs, they look like Greek Adonis gods for a reason, because it makes them better at their job. And their job is being lethal. So if you want to be lethal and you want to be a good provider, if you think that you're going to go on an elk hunt in Montana or Idaho or Utah or even some areas of California, like where my folks live, where we got Thule elk, it's the most beautiful elk, and you are not in shape, bro, I'm embarrassed for you that you're running your mouth, but they're intertwined things of being physical and capable and being a productive member of society that can protect and provide.
There's no amount of training in other areas that can compensate for
there
lack
is not
of that kind of fitness.
No. Yeah. So I want to fit people. I want to trained people. I want to equipped people, and I want a strong people.
Yeah. I did your workout that you posted on Instagram a couple weeks ago, the 3-Mom workout. It's basically a 45-minute workout, every minute on the minute, doing different exercises. And it was one of the most intense workouts I've ever gone through in my life. It was amazing.
They're bad. Have you done a Hateful 100 yet? I post that one probably every 3 weeks, or the Filthy 50.
That sounds fun.
Oh, it's so fun. Let me tell you.
How fun is it?
I take a nap after I did this 3-Mom.
You ever had a thunderclap headache after a really hard workout, where like you have a pain in the, like behind your ears back here.
That's jujitsu, yeah.
Yeah. Like lactic acid builds in you so much and you can't off gas it fast enough and your heart is still like racing. You've been in like the red or the yellow heart rate, like 80, 90% for the whole entire workout. And then you get done and you're breathing and then your head just feels like it's going to explode.
Yes.
Hateful 100, Filthy 50 coming your way. I got one right here that we just
can't
did.
wait. Yes.
So fun. There it is. Hateful 100. 100 toes to bar, 100 kettlebell swings, 100 calories on the bike erg, 100 rows, 100 calories on the ski, 100 calories on the ladder, 100 calories on the assault bike, 100 burpees, 100 pull-ups, 100 10-meter farmer carries, 125-pound ball slams, and 100 hand release push-ups.
Is this all
4 times?
Do one, finish the 100, move
That's
on
right.
to the next?
Yeah, you can't move on to the next movement until you finish the initial modality. It's a race.
Let's do it. Let me know next time you're doing that.
Okay.
Oh man, Tim, thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate that. I really like talking with you about, your book. I really enjoy talking to you about, I know Zach loves talking about fitness and all that stuff. And I get people all the time in class, they say, well, I want to get to my gun. I need to do this, when can I use my firearm? I say, well, you know what? Next door, 2 doors down for us is Krav Maga. Around the corner is Muay Thai. You may have to fight to your to get to your firearm before you can actually pull it out. So you may not be able to pull it out, or it may not be the time for you to pull it out. So you may have to fight, and then it'll be time. With the current administration right now, like I said before, sticking the tip in, eventually trying to get the whole cock in there. We have a lot of court cases that are making their way to the Supreme Court. And I want you to kind of help us a little bit on supporting the Cargill Garland case, having people go to our website like michaelcargill.com, to support that, because this case is really important. It's so important, I guess, the ATF decided they're going to walk into the gun store and do a surprise inspection on us. And
coincidentally, right?
Yeah.
Just like when you're audited because you donated to a conservative group. It is weaponizing departments is the most un-American thing. And I don't care what side of the aisle that you're on. If you are supporting the weaponization of like the IRS or like the ATF or like Department of Education, it's wholly un-American and it's shameful, and shame on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And shame. And if you were just following orders, if you're the one that was knocking on a door, so did the brown shirts, and we saw where that went. So were the Hitler Youth, and we saw where that went. So at some point, you have to stand up, even to the expense of losing your job, to do the right thing. And so I'm going to implore everybody to, one, make sure you call your representatives and make sure they understand the importance of these cases, and that you, as the individual, the constituent that they are representing, because they work for you, that you believe in these things. Make sure that you guys get me the links to the best place and I'll share it as best I can.
Absolutely.
I'm currently like completely blocked on all social media. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. Oh, I got this notification from Meta. And all it said, it's pretty straightforward, is your account can't be shown to non-followers. They cannot explore, they cannot search, you will not be in suggested reels, you will not be suggested to users, you will not be in feed recommendations. So effectively, my account is non-existent.
We get those like
all the time.
Yeah. And we have to delete old posts.
Yeah.
And then they'll basically reinstate it.
And you made a post with a big stabby thing, right?
Yeah.
Was that the post that
was one of 5 posts?
5.
Yeah. One, I was talking about the benefits of the suppressor. And as a father that has young children that shoot, I didn't want them scared of shooting and the overpressure. I get it. Like when you're shooting, even a 22, it's like, but when you put a suppressor on, it's very, very manageable. And I'm graduating my son from a bolt action rifle into a pistol. It's suppressed, of course. And I was just talking about the benefits of a suppressor. Flagged. That was one.
Wow.
One, I was a funny reel. It was like this girl that was like, if you would kill somebody over trying to kill your dog, that means that you value a human life more than a dog's life, or you value a dog's life more than a human's life. And I was like, yep.
Yeah. You boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom,
Like,
boom,
don't
boom,
get
boom,
near
boom.
a dog is my property, and and my property I can protect. It's a very, there's a bunch of states, and I love that Texas still has castle doctrine, which is like, I get to protect my property. It's infused in this document. That is one of the reasons that we have the Second Amendment. It was the second thing that they wrote. The first thing was you get to say whatever you want. And then they said, but you better have a big gun. And, and then it was intertwined with like, no, you can't come into my home. You can't have the military stay in my home, because these were all things that the British were doing. So we made rules preventing them from doing that. And now we have tech companies that are completely just going against all of that. Anyways, here's the 5 posts that they say I have to delete before they make my account public. Yep.
So we're going to do, going to delete them? Got to.
I haven't deleted them yet.
Yeah.
So clearly I don't know.
Just thinking about it.
I am. And I don't know what the right answer is. Do I cave?
Yeah, we deal with this constantly.
Oh, we do it. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. And then we have to do it.
Or do we throw the tea into the harbor?
That's that compromise right there. We'll see.
I don't know. Deep thoughts with Tim.
So this is something we've been talking to people about, is actually in Texas you can sue social media companies for discrimination. It's one of the only states where you can do that. Would you ever consider something like that?
Yeah, I absolutely would, but it's really difficult because the way that they frame this argument, because they've thought ahead to those lawsuits, they're not discriminating. They're community guidelines that they built, and they built those community guidelines to protect their communities. So things that go against that community, like hate speech, misinformation, weapons, or calling for violence, any and all of those things. And yeah, that sounds reasonable to have community guidelines that you're trying to protect your community. But to your point, they phrased those guidelines in a way that eliminates a specific group of people. That is obviously those that like the Second Amendment. But I'm also a libertarian and a capitalist. So I wish that there was a private solution to this, because I don't want it to be legislated. I want freedom of speech to be for everybody, but that's a private company. Do I have freedom of speech to say what I want on their platform?
Right.
I don't know, but is it still their platform? Because now it's town square. Now it's where everybody goes. It's more of a utility than it is a private company.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's how the telephone company started. So you look at, Ma Bell, and then it went over to, okay, now it needs to be controlled by the government needs to have some input in there. So it's going to be the same thing, because we're talking about the internet now. And so I think it changes. It maybe we need the PUC to come in and take a look at that.
Yeah, it's real.
But it's a slippery slope.
Yep. I take saying that really.
Slippery
Anytime
slope.
that I ask the government to come in and do something,
slope.
I'm like, oh, buddy.
Yeah,
No.
slippery slope.
And then they make money off of it, and the government gets bigger,
Right.
and they take more control. Oh, but all we wanted was them, to stop censoring what I post on social media.
But that's where it never stops there, right?
Now the government does
Slippery
it.
slope.
And you want the government to have a say in what we post?
No.
No, definitely not. Look at Britain right now. Do you know how many people are in prison because of things that they said?
Yep.
Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. Don't get me started on Canada.
Yeah.
There are neighbors too. Stupid Canadians. If only you weren't so nice.
Is there a conspiracy that you believe in, or an overarching conspiracy that you think is in play to take down America?
Yes, 100%.
Which is?
Oh. Yeah. So, and it's not America, it's the ideas of America. And yeah. Whether you call it the Bilderbergers, the World Economic Forum, like the World Health Organization, they are all siloed entities that all are trying to do the same thing, which is destroy the fabric of what is our freedom. And sometimes they're collaborating with American departments, such like the CDC. They're captured by pharmaceutical companies, where you have these gigantic entities like BlackRock or Vanguard that are so giant that via lobbyists, they're able to influence legislation and presidents. They brag that they control presidents, where they take advantage of disasters like that are happening in Maui, where they're going in buying properties for pennies on the dollar, which of course will make them billions of dollars. So I hate even saying the word conspiracy, because it's just not accurate. There are large, gigantic groups of corporations and people that are trying to destroy America. And they have been for a very long time. The ideas that go in conflict with ours, such as socialism and communism, are at the core of that.
Cool.
Fuck them. I wish they'd just do it flat out. Try to invade. Try to make it past the Appalachian Mountains, or try to make it past the Rockies. Good luck. But they won't. They're doing it the long, slow way, and we're
Yeah, they
losing.
know that won't work.
Nope, they're winning the way that they're doing it. They're winning right now.
Generational warfare. Yep.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Tim. That's Tim Kennedy, folks. Author of Scars and Stripes. Tim Kennedy.
My man. Fight for freedom.